and let us all do we can to build a better future.
I'm not done kicking the Biden-Harris administration. No, I'm not done. Now, again, on this show, I've talked some stuff about Joe Biden. Let's face it, Biden has some cognitive issues. His approval rating is in the sewers. His administration is, well, doing a very, very bad job for the American people. However, let's bring up his VP. Everyone's favorite cackling joker, Kamala Harris. Now, Harris has had a history of saying some stupid things, laughing, being dumb. And maybe it was a gaffe. Maybe she meant to say pollution. But now she's talking about reduce the population, right? So let's be clear. She probably meant to say pollution, but she's not reading her notes. And let's face it, so many staffers are abandoning her that she has no one to really kind of help her out because she might be an absolute freaking nightmare to work with. And yes, I'm pulling up an article from RT just to trigger vote blue no matter who liberals and KHAV, even though nothing but a bunch of bots. U.S. VP Harris speaks of a desire to reduce population. That's right. Stop breeding. Stop breeding, everybody. U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris listed reducing the population as one of the Biden administration areas of green investment during a speech in Maryland on Friday. The White House has since claimed she misspoke. I mean, do you not go over your script? I mean, let's face it, Kamala. You politicians are at this point nothing but glorified puppets and actors and actresses, okay? Except you're all scumbags and you're making all of our lives horrible. Dare I say, it's probably like a whole bunch of other actors who work in Hollywood. Okay, maybe I'm being too mean with that comparison. Okay, I got to stop. I got to calm down. But Kamala, read the freaking script. Go over it in your head. Hell, talk to yourself in the mirror. It's fine. You got to read a script. You got cameras and video cameras following you 24/7. Smartphones. You got to be on point, kid, or you're going to screw up like you did in your campaign in 2020. So she's going on to quote, when we invest in clean energy and electric vehicles and reduce population. Yeah, right. Okay. More of our children can breathe clean air and drink clean water. How are we going to, how are there going to be kids? Reduce the population. That requires some adult fun time. Okay. While Harris did not correct herself on stage, a White House transcript of the speech struck the word population and replaced it with pollution. The VP made the odd remark as she revealed the Biden administration had made $20 billion available for community-based climate projects. Really? You are? Okay, fine. With $12 billion of that earmarked for historically disadvantaged areas, part of Washington's efforts to have greenhouse gases emissions by 2030 and reach a net zero by 2050. That ain't going to happen. Big oil's going to, stick their face in the Biden-Harris administration and be like, hey, we're still operating. And again, the funding will go to National Network of Nonprofits, community lenders, and other financial institutions. Right there, keyword, which means some people are going to be pocketing that money to fund tens of thousands of climate and clean energy projects across America. Hey, let's have democracy in the chat, okay? Type 1 if you think, you know what, that $20 billion, it's going to be handled properly. It's going to be great. Green energy all around. Type 2, no. That money's going to be pocketed and disappeared, and no one's going to say a damn thing. It was set aside for green energy initiatives under the Inflation Reduction Act as part of the Environmental Protection Agency's Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund. Oh, how wonderful. How wonderful indeed. But when you really look at it, Kamala really knows how to step in it.
When we invest in clean energy and electric vehicles and reduce population, more of our children can breathe clean air and drink clean water.
Excuse me, ma'am, did you just say reduce the population? How exactly do you plan to do that? It sounds a lot like eugenics. This Malthusian population control argument being preached to us by the rich is pretty scary. It's like they want all the poor to stop having kids so they can continue to hoard all the wealth and live in extreme luxury that most of us couldn't even imagine. Reduce the population. This is sick. You should be bettering economic conditions for my generation so that we feel comfortable and safe bringing kids into this world. Instead, none of us want to have children because we're all too impoverished, as the leaders of our country are preaching about reducing the population. Freaking crazy, dude.
Exactly. Can't argue. Can't argue. That's from Midwestern Marks. Please be sure to follow them on social media. But see, the thing is, look, while we're talking about Kamala's gaffes, I mean, she's always done stupid things like this, okay? And it really says a lot about this administration, and about the fact that no one's ever pulling Kamala aside and really asking her, you know, do you know what you're saying? Do you need help? Because she cannot be coached, apparently. She's incapable of really stepping up or doing the right thing. So let's talk about, again, more tongue twisters from Kamala Harris.
The climate crisis impacts everybody, but it does not impact all communities equally. Poor communities, rural communities, Native communities, and communities of color are often the hardest hit and the least able to recover.
So that's a tongue twister right there. Again, the climate crisis impacts everybody, but it does not impact all communities equally. Okay. So again, more tongue twisters, but here, another tongue twister. She has to be drunk in this one.
Everything is in context. My mother she would give us a hard time sometimes, and she would say to us, I don't know what's wrong with you young people. You think you just fell out of a coconut tree?
Why does she laugh? My God. Again, I think Tulsi Gabbard's right. It has to be a nervous tick. Here.
You exist. Everything is in context. My mother she would give us a hard time sometimes, and she would say to us, I don't know what's wrong with you young people. You think you just fell out of a coconut tree? You exist in the context of all in which you live and what came before you.
Willie Brown, what did you put upon the people? Why did you do this to us? Do you have any idea what nightmare you have unleashed upon the world? Well, hold on, it gets better.
Are all these Kamala resurrection efforts helping? Well, apparently not, because a brand new NBC News poll is revealing that her net negative rating of -17, that's right near where Putin is, Andre, the lowest for any vice president in the poll's history. Are all these Kamala resurrection efforts?
So yes, because her approval rating is in the toilet. It's pretty pathetic when you really think about it. But when she is ever effectively challenged, you see the mask break. The thing is, vote blue no matter who. The groups, the individuals, the people who make it up. I understand why they're scared of Trump. I understand why they were so triggered. Because for the first time in a long time, their little peace and sincerity that they had from the Obama administration bubble was popped. They realized that things were not good and that Trump was a reaction towards that political environment. And plus, when Bernie Sanders, before he cucked out, was reaching out to voters, it was resonating with people who wanted something different than traditional Democratic establishment. You see, people are comfortable with, well, being lied to. But when these liars are challenged, especially people like Kamala Harris, they break. They don't have what it takes. So I just want to remind all of you, because I played a video in an earlier segment about Joe Biden being a habitual liar who has done dumb things before and has continued doing dumb things now. Let's be reminded of the fact that Kamala is only vice president because of the good graces of corporate media, the Democratic establishment, and vote blue no matter who, people who don't have two brain cells to rub together. I want to remind all of you of the time when she was effectively and efficiently destroyed. Let's play it.
I want to bring the conversation back to the broken criminal justice system that is disproportionately negatively impacting Black and brown people all across this country today. Now, Senator Harris says she's proud of her record as a prosecutor and that she'll be a prosecutor president, but I'm deeply concerned about this record. There are too many examples to cite, but she put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations and then laughed about it when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana. She blocked evidence. She blocked evidence that would have freed an innocent man from death row until the courts forced her to do so. She kept people in prison beyond their sentences to use them as cheap labor for the state of California. And she fought to keep cash bail system in place that impacts poor people in the worst kind of way.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Senator Harris, your response.
Now, again, her entire world was destroyed that day. And she got destroyed a second time when those two would debate again. But that was the beginning of the end of her campaign in 2020. And let's face it, Kamala's campaign went broke in 2020. I remember my colleague Daniel Lupker talking about it and covering that story and saying how pathetic you have to be to have your campaign go broke before the Iowa primary. Not a very serious politician.
As the elected Attorney General of California, I did the work of significantly reforming the criminal justice system of a state of 40 million people, which became a national model for the work that needs to be done. And I am proud of that work. And I am proud of making a decision to not just give fancy speeches or be in a legislative body and give speeches on the floor, but actually doing the work of being in the position to use the power that I had to reform a system that is badly in need of reform. That is why we created initiatives that were about reentering former offenders and getting them counseling.
The bottom line is, Senator Harris, when you are in a position to make a difference and an impact in these people's lives, you did not. And worse yet, in the case of those who are on death row, innocent people, you actually blocked evidence from being revealed that would have freed them until you were forced to do so. There is no excuse for that. And the people who suffered under your reign as prosecutor, you owe them an apology.
More than that, she owes a lot of people an apology, especially some of the prison firefighters. Now, again, policy before, especially when Kamala was, again, in charge, was even, let's say some of these prisoners, did their time and did everything right. They still could not apply to be firefighters because there was a rule put in place in the great state of California, which is now sinking, that they could not serve as firefighters. Kamala could have maybe done something, but no. But she did have time to send threatening letters to parents that lived in California that if your kid doesn't go to school, guess what? You're going to jail, parents. Yeah. And guess what? She did what she always did. She cackled and laughed.
Our Democratic Party, unfortunately, is not the party that is of, by, and for the people. It is a party that has been and continues to be influenced by the foreign policy establishment in Washington, represented by Hillary Clinton and others' foreign policy, by the military-industrial complex and other greedy corporate interests.
Senator Harris, any response?
Oh, sure.
Hey, she's laughing.
I think that it's unfortunate that we have someone on the stage who is attempting to be the Democratic nominee for president of the United States, who during the Obama administration spent 4 years full-time on Fox News criticizing President Obama, who has spent full-time criticizing people on this stage as affiliated with the Democratic Party. When Donald Trump was elected, not even sworn in, buddied up to Steve Bannon to get a meeting with Donald Trump in the Trump Tower, fails to call a war criminal by what he is as a war criminal, and then spends full time during the course of this campaign, again, criticizing the Democratic Party. What we need on the stage in November is someone who has the ability to win.
Yeah, maybe. But Kamala, let's look what happened after that win. Rise of inflation, crumbling infrastructure. And yes, you and Joe Biden are still implementing many of Trump's foreign and domestic policies. Nothing fundamentally changed. Hell, Kamala, you've hemorrhaged more staffers than I think anyone who's ever served in the office of vice president. Yes, you guys did one. But at what cost?
And by that, we need someone on that stage who has the ability to go toe-to-toe with Donald Trump and someone who has the ability to rebuild the Obama coalition and bring the party and the nation together. I believe I am that candidate.
Thank you, Senator.
Yes.
Congresswoman Gabbard, I'll give you a chance to
What
respond.
Senator Harris is doing is unfortunately continuing to traffic in lies and smears and innuendos because she cannot challenge the substance of the argument that I'm making, the leadership and the change that I'm seeking to bring in our foreign policy, which only makes me guess that she will, as president, continue the status quo, continue the Bush, Clinton, Trump foreign policy of regime change wars, which is deeply destructive.
And Tulsi Gabbard was proven correct because we have this ridiculous war in Ukraine. And, of course, we have unchecked corruption, money in politics, crumbling infrastructure, and an administration that has made things worse. Nothing fundamentally changed. It got fundamentally worse. So how should we end this segment about Kamala Harris and her epic failures, gaffes, and so much more? I don't have confidence in this administration. I don't have confidence in anyone who's part of the Democratic Party or the Republican Party because I want both parties to be held accountable because both parties are filled with scumbags. They are scumbags. Let's be honest here. All these politicians are. They don't like us. They don't think about us. They don't respect us. So how should we end this? It was probably the greatest gaffe of them all. And on a humorous note.
Do not come. Do not come.
I'm going to come.
Yes!